Let's do this. Today I want to talk about this Bill Maher video. This is a topic that I touched on before when I was talking about Abigail Spanberger and her comments about how the left wing of the party is ruining their chances at winning. Bill Maher decided to put his 2 cents in this, and somebody from Reddit asked Ask a Liberal group what we thought about this, and I saw it and decided I wanted to do a response video.
And finally, new rule: with 2 Senate seats in Georgia still possible, seats that will make the difference between gridlock and progress, Democrats must figure out why so many voters still say to them, "You're good enough, you're smart enough, but doggone it, we don't like you."
Bro.
Under the headline, "Something Went Wrong," the New York Times described a post-election conference call between Democratic leaders where they wept, cursed, and traded blame. Wait, I thought we won this one. Which we did. We did, and yes, ding dong, the whiny little bitch is dead. Celebration is in order. We took a big step towards saving democracy and in the process lost 280 pounds of ugly fat. All right, that's my last fat joke about Trump for the next 5 minutes. But Democrats were supposed to flip the Senate and didn't. Supposed to flip state legislatures, not a one. And they lost seats in the House in a year that was
True.
making people aware of racism. Their share of minority votes went down. The
True.
message to Democrats from so much of the country seems to be, we don't like Trump, but we still can't bring ourselves to vote for you. If Cracker Jack was made of popcorn and dog shit, and half the people threw out the popcorn should want to know why. Liberals can either write off half the country as irredeemable, or they can ask, what is it about a D next to a candidate's name that makes it so toxic? Let's ask Ruben Gallego. He's a congressman from Arizona, and he was asked how his Democrats could do a better job connecting to Latinos. He said, first, start by not using the term Latinx.
That is a true statement. Apparently, and this is something that I have just heard. I don't know for sure. But apparently, Latinos don't like the term Latinx. So, yeah, he's definitely onto something. I don't know what's wrong with the word Hispanic. Maybe there's something wrong with it, but yeah, in general, American politics needs to stop looking at the Hispanic group as like one group anyways, because Hispanics come from all different types of backgrounds and are going to vote based off of their background. Like a Cuban is going to vote differently than what a Mexican American would.
Which the vast majority of Latinos have never heard of, and when they do, don't like it.
That's the same for black people also. African American, like somebody who came from Africa, immigrated to America, is going to vote differently than somebody who was born in America and whose ancestors were slaves in America.
Who likes it? Pandering white politicians who mistake Twitter for real people and don't get it that Latinx is like fetch. You can try to make it happen, but it's never gonna. Virginia Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger said after the election, if we are classifying Tuesday as a success, we will get fucking torn apart in 2022. That's a
True.
She was urging members not to talk about defunding the police. James Clyburn.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put this disclaimer here. The left has good policies, but awful rhetoric. I've said it before. I'm going to say it here. Their rhetoric is awful. And it doesn't really matter how good your policies are if you can't explain it to the people in an accurate way. Especially when we are talking about a people that really needs surface level explanations of the things that they are voting for, because a lot of people cannot be bothered to look more into an issue the way that I, or if you're watching this video, you would be able to. That is where the Republican Party thrives. Actually, I think that the left needs to figure out who the Republican Party has as their public affair agents and hire them. Because if they can take an idea like giving tax breaks to the wealthy so that the savings will trickle down, and make that seem like a good idea to a large swath of the American population, then surely they could take an idea like, well, maybe everybody needs health care, and make it palatable to pretty much every American. That's just a thought.
Agreed. Defund the police is killing our party, he said. Pennsylvania Democrat Connor Lamb says Democratic rhetoric needs to be dialed back. It needs to be rooted in common sense. Thank you. Thank you.
That's true. Defund the police. Like I said, people don't think about these things on a deeper than a surface level. So when they hear defund the police, they think that you're actually going to try and take away the police and not just reallocate funds from the police department in order to take care of other societal needs that would make it to where we won't need police officers so often.
There, in my opinion, is the crux of the problem. Democrats too often don't come across as having common sense to a huge swath of Americans. And these are people who believe in QAnon. But as I've said before, politics in this country is binary. You have to wear everything anyone on your side does. Republican.
Yep. We do, and that's a big issue, which is why we need more than two parties.
Are the party of don't wear masks, kids in cages, lock her up, and Democrats are the party of every hypersensitive social justice warrior woke bullshit story in the news. They're the party that disappears people or tries to make them apologize for ridiculous things. Anne Hathaway apologized.
Okay, some of those people probably should have apologized for what they did. Louis C.K. blocked a woman in his room, and masturbated in front of her. That's a thing that's worthy of apologizing for. I didn't know who the other people were. But yeah, as funny as Louis C.K. is, then that was an issue.
Last week because in her new movie she plays a witch, a fictional character that has 3 claw-like fingers, and that's offensive to people with limb differences. Hey, the week before.
But yeah, there are some ridiculous SJWs on the left. They are the minority. Most people on the left are not like that. I say that, but there's this Reddit, a subreddit called r/Social Justice 101, and it's a great subreddit overall. It's a great place for people like me who do not understand certain aspects of social justice, certain aspects of what it's like to not be a white straight male in America, to be able to go and ask questions and get answers from people who want to answer the question and not like jump down my throat for not knowing the answer. With that being said, some of the questions that get asked on that subreddit are fucking ridiculous, in my opinion. Those questions largely stem around things like cultural appropriation. I'm a white guy, but I have dreads. Is that cultural appropriation? That's a ridiculous question to ask, I think. There was one I read today that was, I'm white and I have a piece of African art that my dad bought for me when he was in Africa. Is it okay to hang it on my wall? Or is that cultural appropriation? Yes, hang the art that your dad bought from the African people on your wall. Now, if your dad was making African art, African style art, and selling it at the harm of actual Africans who are also trying to sell that art, then maybe that would be appropriation. But buying art from somebody else's culture and displaying it is not appropriation. And in my opinion, wearing another cultural's clothes, as long as it's not like sacred clothing and you are respecting that culture while you're wearing it because you like it, but not because you want to you can't put on like a Chinese garb and then start going around talking like you're from China. That would just be racist and appropriation. But if you like a certain style that a certain culture has, you're allowed to wear it and appreciate that culture and immerse yourself in that. If you like a certain hairstyle or a certain way that a certain culture wears their makeup or a certain culture's music, you're allowed to enjoy other cultures. But yeah, they do get ridiculous, but I still say that it's a minority. It's even a minority on that subreddit. But the right just does such a great job at magnifying that minority and making the entire left seem that ridiculous. And the left, it's up to us on the left to fight against that. It's not that we don't have to indulge in social justice rhetoric. We just have to be able to fight against the rhetoric coming from the right that paints us as the most extreme cases of that issue.
Before, the NHL's Arizona Coyotes dropped a player after it came out in the press that when he was in 8th grade, he bullied a disabled kid. Yes, that's a bad thing to do. But are we really going after people for what they did in middle school now? Democrats already lost seats for going after what Brett Kavanaugh did in high school. Common sense.
Okay, so I think that if you were going to be on the highest court in the land, I don't care how old you are, if there was evidence, maybe even stronger evidence than what they had against Kavanaugh, but if there was strong evidence that he raped a person in high school, you should not be on the highest court, a lifetime appointee on the highest court of the land. That's just not, no. Now, I am not saying that Ford's testimony wasn't credible. It definitely was. But if there's not enough evidence in Ford's testimony to be able to throw somebody in jail, which I'm not saying, I don't think it was. I don't think that it was enough evidence to really justify keeping a Supreme Court nomination from somebody. Maybe. I'd have to think about that some more. Certainly worth dragging him through the mud, I think.
Last year, I read about how NBC held an emergency meeting to determine if Mario Lopez should be fired from his job at Access Hollywood. I thought, holy shit, did he sexually assault somebody? No, he went on a podcast, and when the host brought up the trend of liberal parents letting toddlers pick their gender identity, he said, my God, if you're 3 years old and you're saying you think you're a boy or a girl, I just think it's dangerous as a parent to make that determination.
Okay, I think Bill Maher makes a point that's really stupid here, so I'm going to let him finish, but I've got something to say to this.
Cue the groveling apology, followed by America saying, yeah, I think Mario's right. Maybe kids shouldn't make big life decisions while you still need to make choo-choo noises to get the food in their mouth.
Yeah, so there it is. This is a perfect example of the left not being able to articulate their message very well, and the right making the left look absolutely ridiculous. And Bill Maher right here is just playing right into it. When somebody says that they're going to let their 3-year-old pick their gender identity, they are not going up to their 3-year-old and saying, hey, buddy, hey, Taylor, gender neutral name, you're 3 now. Are you a boy or a girl? Tell me. That's not the way. But when did your parents come up to you and ask you if you were a boy or a girl? That's just not the way gender works. When somebody says they're going to let their 3-year-old pick their gender identity, it just simply means that they're going to let them, their girls, play with cars if they want to. Or play with dolls if they want to. They're going to let their boys play with dolls if they want to, or play with cars if they want to. They're going to let them wear whatever they want. If a boy wants to wear a dress, they're going to let them do that. If the boy wants to wear makeup, they're going to let them do that. And if the girl wants to wear, what do guys wear that girls don't? Baggy jeans and a t-shirt? And the girl wants to play in the mud, they're going to let them. That's how it works. They don't go up to them and ask them, are you a boy or a girl? That's ridiculous. And Bill Maher is playing right into it right here. And the audience is just eating it up. Like, you're just showing that you don't understand the issue, and you're on national TV talking about it, but you don't understand it one bit.
I can do this all day.
Please don't.
cite stories big and small that are endlessly on people's news feeds that add up to a constant drip, drip, drip of these people are nuts. Everybody heard about that story out of San Francisco?
Yeah, and people like you who are feeding into it, who are supposed to be on the left, who are feeding into it, who are going into these conversations without any knowledge of what you're talking about, you're not helping. You're hurting a lot.
About a guy who got on a crowded elevator with a female professor, and when she asked what floor, he said, women's lingerie. You know, a little joke, for which he earned a formal complaint because it left her shaken.
Okay, you cannot sit here and pretend to know what was going through that woman's head when he did that. To you and me, something like that may seem like a joke, but you don't know if that woman was recently sexually assaulted, recently raped, sexually assaulted in her childhood and still dealing with that trauma. Therefore, hearing a joke like that makes her shaken. Or even if there was no history of sexual assault, even if she lived a honky-dory life, you cannot invalidate somebody else's feelings because you are a guy who would never, ever, most likely never, ever have to worry about being stuck on an elevator with another person that's going to sexually harass you. Like, the fact that you're going in on this woman. Now, if this woman was, okay, so let's say the guy heard her complaints, apologized, and the woman still went in on him. That would be an issue because now she's being irrational. She's not being cooperative. But if she felt some type of way about what he said, she has a right to call him out on it. And anybody who's going to be a respectable adult would just apologize. And if you feel like you've done something wrong, then you're going to change it. And if you don't, well, then you're going to keep doing it at the risk of harming somebody else. And if it really is as ridiculous as you say it is, then the risk of harming somebody else by continuing that behavior is low. But you cannot pretend to know what this girl was feeling, and you should not be invalidating her feelings.
Shaken? Who are these jellyfish? Like the woman who almost derailed Biden's campaign because he kissed the back of her head before she went out to make a speech. She said her brain couldn't process what was happening.
Yes, if a strange old man kissed me in the back of my head, my brain wouldn't be able to process what's happening either. That is an issue.
Really? Your brain couldn't process that, like string theory or wormholes? An old man was trying to show support in his old man way.
And his old man way is problematic. You can't just brush that off. Wasn't it? I don't know how much based in reality this is, but you know, in the old sitcoms around the office, they would slap the girl's ass and call them dames. I mean, that's problematic behavior. If that's the way it is, you can't just be like, well, that's just the way it is. No, you gotta change it. You gotta try and do something about it. And him kissing her in the back of the head unprompted, that's an issue. You can't just excuse it because he's old.
She said she was embarrassed, shocked, confused. Well, then the outside world isn't for you.
No, the outside world is for her. Joe Biden isn't for the outside world. When he acts like this, it isn't for the outside world. His behavior is not for the outside world. What is this? This is like tantamount to victim blaming. What the hell are you doing, Bill Maher? Okay. I can't process what? And the audience is eating it up. What the hell is wrong with them?
And certainly running the world isn't. I talked to a guy in the Midwest once who told me this story about the day he went out to get his car in the supermarket parking lot, but couldn't back out because a mother and her very young daughter were standing behind his car, which was next to their car, which had a Hillary bumper sticker on it. And the little girl was screaming at her mother, who was profusely apologizing to the child. And he said to me, I just can't let people like that.
Apologizing for what? What is the context of this story?
Take over this country.
What is the context of this story? Did the mom just now almost smash her finger in the car door? I would apologize profusely if I smashed a little kid's finger in the car door. I mean, I think he's trying to paint the picture of parents just letting their kids scream and wail and carry on in public. Which, what are you going to do? I mean, if she's apologizing, then she did something wrong. It's not like she's apologizing for nothing. And being able to apologize to your kid for when you were in the wrong is a great sign of being a good parent. Not being able to admit that you were in the wrong and not being able to apologize to your kid is damaging to the child. So I don't really know why he thinks this anecdote that he has is like tantamount to a bigger issue. If she was like spanking, she was like wailing on the kid physically to try and get her to stop crying, then I would say I don't want these people running my country, because the idea that spanking your kid to get them to stop crying is going to work is just ridiculous. So these are going to be the type of people that's going to think that poor people will get more money by cutting the taxes of the rich. Those are the type of people that spank their kids.
That's what people vote on, not policy. Democrats kept saying in the campaign, you can't possibly think Trump is preferable to what we're selling.
He is right. And that's a big issue in America. Because if we can't sell the idea that everyone deserves health care, that education is an essential thing for us to invest in, that global warming is real and needs to be addressed, that systematic racism is a thing, if we can't convince people of that and have them vote based off of those things, based off of the factual evidence surrounding those things, then we're doomed as a country anyways. Like, if we can't reach these people, we shouldn't be changing our policies to fit these people's skewed view of the world. We should be trying to change their worldview to fit our policies, because our policies is based around fact. Whereas these people who are voting against Democrats for any reason other than they're not good enough on the policies, these people who are voting for Republicans, their worldview is not based around facts. In my opinion, they are not based around facts. And I have yet to see any significant evidence to suggest otherwise. There are certain things that the right has right and the left has wrong. But for the most part, large-scale issues, the right does not base their opinion around facts. And we should not be basing our policies around people who do not base their opinion around facts.
And many voters keep saying, yes, we can. In fact, our primary reason voting for him is to create a bulwark against you, because your side thinks silence is violence and looting is not. Because you're the...
Most Democrats, especially the centrists that were running, do not condone looting. I don't know much about the silence is violence talking point, but most Democrat people on the left do not condone looting. Hell, the people who were looting, I guarantee you, aren't politically involved. I obviously have no numbers to back this claim up, but I have a feeling that the people who looted the Target, who looted the small businesses that were setting fires, they don't vote. If more of those people voted, then more Democrats would get in. Most likely.
The party of chasing speakers off college campuses and making everyone...
Okay, some speakers... hold on, let me see if he says anything else. I'm going to speak to that.
Walk on eggshells and replacing let's not see color with let's see it always and everywhere. Formerly...
Okay, so the college campus thing. Chasing people off of college campuses. What he's referring to are people who protest right-wing speakers like Ben Shapiro, Steven Crowder, Stefan Molyneux, and Malo Yiannopoulos. when they tried to speak on college campuses. I think there was 1 or 2 instances where they had to cancel it because of the threat of violence. But for the most part, they get canceled just because the student body that's there don't want them there. Those right-wing speakers do not have a right to be on those college campuses. So and the college students have a right to protest it. So I don't really see where the issue is. If they are able to get enough people to protest these speakers to be able to cancel the event without the threat of violence, I'm not excusing the instances where the events were canceled because of the threat of violence. But if they're able to get enough people to be able to speak out against this without the threat of violence to cancel the events, then I don't see the issue. These people just aren't popular. Like I said, we shouldn't be moving to their side. If they're not popular enough to get to speak on these college campuses, they should be moving to the college campuses side if they want to speak on these college campuses.
In the position of the Ku Klux Klan. It would be so easy to win elections if we would just drop this shit. Democrats need to listen to our new president-elect's old boss.
This idea of purity and you're never compromised and you're always politically woke and all that stuff, you should get over that quickly.
Quickly, like before they vote in Georgia.